You're very welcome on to the Matchbook Football Podcast, coming to you here on Thursday morning. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by Mark O'Hare. We still have Adrian Clark taking a week off during the club season. We had a comment, Mark, saying he's written off the league already, and that's it. And that's why he's heading off for a week in the sunshine. But we can reassure you he's far from written that off. He's merely badly timing his holidays this season for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think it's Adrian's choice. I think we probably have to blame Mrs. Clark for the timing of this. But yeah, he definitely hasn't written off the league with the way Arsenal are playing right now. So yeah, I'm sure he'd love to be back on deck and helping support the podcast. But yeah, he'll be back next week and looking forward to him joining us again.
Okay, a lot of goals in the Champions League, but we will focus our attention on the weekend's Premier League. We're going to start with Manchester United versus Brighton, Mark, and we're going to cover Arsenal, Palace, Villa City, and Everton versus Spurs. Manchester United versus Brighton feels a massive game because United obviously have serious momentum off that Anfield performance. I've heard mixed reviews. Anything from that was just a 10 out of 10 away performance to they rode their luck. You know, Amarin's got these wins before, maybe not as big. Is the answer somewhere in between, or were you quietly impressed with Amarin's side?
Quietly impressed, but yeah, I think the answer is somewhere in between. We've seen United go away to big teams, including Anfield and Liverpool in previous years, Arsenal as well in the FA Cup, Man City, of course, last season, and get big results. The issue has always been backing up those big performances. It's been well trodden that last week was just the first time that they've gone back to back in terms of winning matches under Ruben Amorim. So that shows consistency has always been lacking. What I would say is their best performances so far this season have tended to be at Old Trafford, 3 straight wins there in the Premier League. But even if you go back to match day 1, they put Arsenal under serious stress in that match, which they lost. But Chelsea, for the most part, they were good. They did sort of sit on their lead a little bit when it was 10v10 in that second half, but made short work of a very solid Sunderland side here. The Burnley match should and could have been more convincing than the final score and the way in which they had to win that with a late penalty. But yeah, I think what we saw last weekend was a team showing grit, resolve, a real motivation and concentration, sort of qualities that we found very much wanting in this Man United team over the past year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, really. They exposed Liverpool's failings. I thought Cunha really impressed, leading the line, retained possession really well, helped to relieve the pressure. And overall, I thought it was a pretty street-smart display. Yes, they did rode their luck a lot. Liverpool hitting the woodwork 3 times. But yeah, that result could prove a turning point. But, they have to back it up now against Brighton. They can't lose that momentum less than a week later because Brighton have got the Indian sign over them. 6 wins in the last 7 head-to-head, 3 successive wins at Old Trafford for Brighton as well. And they come here having beaten Newcastle and Chelsea in 2 of their last 3 matches. They've held Spurs away. They've already beaten Man City. And that's all doing despite failing to keep a clean sheet this season in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's an interesting game. It's not one I really enjoyed trying to analyse and trying to pick a team to support or oppose. It's one of those where you could easily make a case for and against each team. So I guess in that sense, the draw might be the value. But yeah, I'm going to basically follow down the Adrian Clark Classic route, which is back both teams to score under 4.5 goals at even money. I think it's 2.05 now on the Bet Builder on Thursday morning. But yeah, it's kind of a cop-out way in. But ultimately, you're looking at a Brighton team who have now kept just 1 clean sheet in 20 Premier League matches. And that, for me, is always the risk when you want to try and attempt to be Brighton. They just can't be trusted defensively. The flip side is they almost always score. They failed to score now in just 2 of the 23 away Premier League games going back to the start of last season, which is quite an outrageous record, really. If you can compare and contrast with the rest of the league, it will be there or thereabouts as being the best record in terms of getting on the score sheet. So 70% of those away days saw both teams score. 70% also delivered winning over 2.5 goals bets. So it just made more sense to me rather than sort of take sides with teams I'm not able to completely trust right now, even at the lines and prices. So instead, just invest in goals. The BTTS and under 4.5 goals angle has won in 11 of their combined 16 league matches this season. It's 7 from 8 when Brighton are involved. So to get a repeat around evens or just better than that seems perfectly palatable. So yeah, that'll be the angle. As I say, I can't really trust either team right now, but really eager to see how United back up last week because it's a big test now. A Brighton side who are capable, but ultimately defensively fallible.
Okay, both teams have scored 156 currently on the matchbook betting exchange. You can boost that to evens by combining it with under 4.5 goals if you go to the bet builder. We want this to be our money back special, Mark. So we're going to add it. So that's your official bet, by adding a treble leg in. Anthony Taylor's referencing this game.
He is, yeah. I guess we should mention when Brighton are involved, cards do tend to flow, but we just have to hope here for the money back treble that Taylor sort of supersedes that, because he's now refereed 38 league games going back to the start of last season. Those matches have averaged just 3.3 cards. Already this season, he's dropped 2 0-card games in the Premier League, which was the Manchester derby and, of course, Arsenal's win at Fulham not so long ago. So we'll choose under 5.5 goals, which feels safe enough to add to the treble. I think it boosts the price to 2.6. Of those 38 league games, 89% went under 5.5 cards. So he's got a pretty strong hit rate for going under quite a high total.
Yeah, we'll lock that in. So under 5.5 cards, under 4.5 goals, both teams to score 2.6. Myself and Mark missed Anthony Taylor's 0-card game Saturday that Mark touched on there, Fulham versus Arsenal. I mean, Mark, I was out and about Saturday, so only got around to just tuning in a pub watching Arsenal in the background. Saw Anthony Taylor. That's when it first came across my desk. I mean, you should have been all over the 0-card Anthony Taylor games, because they're coming left, right, and centre.
I know. Don't remind me. I've got no excuses, to be honest. I've done all the prep. I was ready for it, but I just never pulled the trigger. I never got around to it. I didn't have any cards-based bet in that game, and I'm really kicking myself on Saturday night when inevitably he chucks in another 0. So fingers crossed he can repeat the feat at the weekend.
Yeah, look, we talk about it a lot, so hopefully a listener or viewer, feel free to, after time there in the comments, if you did manage to get some of Anthony Taylor's unders last Saturday evening. And it is the aforementioned Arsenal we'll touch on versus Crystal Palace. Quick reminder of the current offer we have on Matchbook. If you don't have a Matchbook account and you'd like to take advantage of our best offer, you can enter the bonus code POD50, POD50. This is exclusive to podcasts listeners or YouTube viewers. It is our most generous offer. So enter the bonus code POD50 and get £50 worth in free bets when you bet £50. Well, we're taking advantage of our exchange markets, but also our bet builder options as well. Arsenal versus Palace. Like the narrative after Arsenal's win against Atletico, it was a very impressive 90-minute performance, particularly second half performance, Mark, in the Champions League. But this is a tough assignment. Crystal Palace at home. Does it get much tougher in terms of outside that, maybe teams going for the Premier League title outside that top 3? It's probably as hard a game as you can have right now. I mean, maybe that's not reflected in the markets just yet, but Crystal Palace are a tough team to beat.
Couldn't agree more. And I don't think it's been reflected in the pricing for this game. Arsenal are the team to beat right now. They are top of the Premier League, but they're also top on all the major metrics, fresh from that really impressive effort against Atletico midweek, where they did dominate set pieces again, the avenue to break the deadlock. And from there was only really going to be one winner. Did have a couple of shaky moments. Obviously, David Raya, Alvarez hitting the bar as well. But, once they go ahead, such as their sort of stranglehold of matches when they are in front with what I would say is the world's best defence by a distance right now, it's very difficult to stop them. But, in Premier League terms, no shot on target faced across their last 2 games. No sides faced fewer shots on target. As Arsenal this season, they've conceded the fewest goals, the lowest XG tally after 8 rounds of action. And I said sort of pre-season they were my lean really, but a lot rested for me on how they'd come through those the first 10 fixtures. A very difficult schedule, and they've impressed. Even that defeat at Liverpool wasn't really just. So I'm fascinated to see how they go here against Palace, who, by most major metrics, have been the second most consistent team in the Premier League, even if results haven't necessarily matched that. They're second on expected points, the most big chances created, the most shots on target, the highest XG average. That's despite losing Eze in the summer to Arsenal, of course. And Oliver Glasner just seems to have reinvented this Palace team as an exciting front-footed team. And I'm really loving it right now, because last year they ranked 14th for shot creating actions. They're now 4th or joint 4th in that same metric. I think there has been a level of underperformance, the most big chances missed, and by far the biggest margin between XG output and actual goals. But ultimately, this is a team you don't want to oppose lightly. Mateta is giving defenders nightmares, and I cannot wait to see that battle between him and Gabriel and Saliba. He's such a dominant force physically. He's got real smart movement and real determination. So only Haaland has had more shots on target, and XG. So he's in decent company. And I guess it's a bit of a shame Palace have got European duty on Thursday, albeit at home to Larnaca, as they'll have 2 days less rest and preparation time. But I still expect them to be competitive, and I think they can score, which I think is obviously a huge plus if you can play Arsenal and get on the score sheet. And if they do score, I think they are worth siding with on the Asian handicap here. So for Arsenal, for as impressive as they have been, I do think they do look pretty short on the nose. So looking towards Palace with a +1.25 goal start stood out to me. It means we make money should Palace win, draw, or even lose by an exactly 1 goal margin. Arsenal need to win by 2 goals or more for the bet to lose. Obviously, Arsenal have done exactly that against West Ham, Forest and Leeds, and also Atletico Olympiacos in Europe as well at the Emirates. But I'd argue Atletico was by far and away the toughest test there in Premier League terms. They have actually only won by 2 goals or more in 7 of their last 20 home games and 16 of their previous 40. So on both samples, they're not getting quite close to 50% success rate in this market, whereas Palace have lost once in 21 games. That was fairly unfairly, actually, or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, at Everton before the international break, when they really deserved something out of that game. And during that 21-game sequence, they've won or drawn against Liverpool 3 times, Villa 3 times, Bournemouth twice, Chelsea, Man City, Spurs, and of course here at Arsenal in April. So, but what's more, this Palace +1.25 start would have returned you profit of some sort in 55 of their last 59 games across all competitions and 48 of their last 53 Premier League matches, which basically means they've only lost by 2 goals or more 4 times in 59 and 5 times in 53 Premier League matches, which is quite simply outstanding for a team of their caliber. So, yeah, I'm prepared to give them a shot here to keep things competitive and stay within a 1 goal margin of Arsenal.
Okay, that's half your stake on +1, which means you get your money back if it's 1 goal, and half your stake on +1.5. I think the 0-0 draw is a bit of a runner here as well, to be honest. But we'll move on to Aston Villa versus Manchester City, 2 o'clock Sunday. And Mark, I mean, I was going to lead with this player, and then I see he's part of your bet. To spoiler alert for anyone here, it'll be running at the bottom of the screen on YouTube. But Erling Haaland's a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. When he scored his goal against Villarreal, and the commentator said, I think he said his 24th goal this season already. That's what I think he said. I didn't double check.
He did, yeah.
20,
it's correct.
24. Yeah. It's October.
24 goals in 14 appearances for club and country. It's outrageous. And we sort of touched on him before the Villarreal match, but he just looks so hungry this season, so hungry to break records and make an impression. Obviously driving Norway towards the World Cup, but driving Man City towards another title assault as well. His movement for the goal against Villarreal and his movement for most of his goals this season has been, second to none, really. He is, you can't really sort of label any more superlatives around him. He's just simply the ultimate striker right now. And I was impressed by Man City in midweek, having opposed them on the Asian handicap at Villarreal. I was quite disappointed in Villarreal and Marcelino's approach. I think they showed a bit too much respect for City, stood off and allowed them to dominate possession and territory. But it was a deserved victory for City. But I still get the feeling that they do have a tendency to sort of give you a bit of a bone to play with, especially away from home. Across the 90, Villarreal actually matched Man City for attempts inside the penalty area. They hit the woodwork and wasted 2 big chances. The XG actually came out quite close to equal, really. But when you've got Haaland in the form he's in and the way in which he's playing, that's always your cheat card, really. But yeah, City unbeaten in 9 now across all comps. Haaland with those 24 goals, failed to score just once for City this season. Quite outrageous, really. But yeah, they have the 2 days extra rest here over Villa. Players coming back from injury as well. So in squad terms, they're in a strong position. But this hasn't been a happy hunting ground since Unai Emery took charge of Villa. Villa have won twice and drawn 1 of the last 3 home games against City at Villa Park. And without being particularly exciting, particularly enthralling, Villa have quietly got themselves back into a solid footing, actually. So obviously they started with those back-to-back league losses. They're unbeaten in 8 since then across all comps, 5 wins on the spin. And their record at Villa Park has tended to be strong under Unai Emery. They're averaging 2.09 points per game over a 55-game sample. losing just 8 times, scoring in 50 of those 55. But if you look at their record against the best teams, their last 8 home league games against Arsenal, Man City or Chelsea, 4 wins, 3 draws and just the 1 defeat. That's not to mention their European record at home in the last couple of campaigns. 12 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. They've held Juventus, they've beaten Bayern Munich and they've beaten PSG here. So whilst they might not be the same side as last year, there's no Tielemans here this weekend either. I don't necessarily want to oppose them or back City at odds on quotes. So City have won just 7 of the last 19 away Premier League games. They've also scored twice or more in only 7 of those 19. So kind of happy enough to swerve them at the prices. Villa's most recent matches have been pretty uneventful. The XG, I think, over the last 4 league games comes in around 162 in total, which kind of goes to show not a huge amount is happening. But I looked a bit more at Man City as I did before the Villarreal match. And if you look at those 7 wins in 19 away Premier League games, 5 of them came when they were priced up at 1.66 or shorter. And they've actually failed to win at 1.9 or bigger in 8 of the last 10 away days in the Premier League, which includes Brighton earlier this season. So that they are the strongest team. They are in better form. They look like they're going to be title challengers again, but I think I could leave them at that price in what looks quite a tricky contest. So, instead, just focus on Haaland. It's 2.3 for Haaland to score and under 4.5 goals in this game. Haaland averaging, 1.43 goals per 90, 1.04 expected goals per game. Just outrageous numbers, really. And in terms of the unders, as I say, Villa's matches recently have been pretty low in terms of XG output, but the last 3 matches at Villa Park between these 2, 1, and 3 goals. Only 2 of Villa's 23 home games since the start of last season have gone 5 or more, and the same for Man City when they're playing away. I think just 6 or 7 of those away games have also gone over 3.5 goals. So City do tend to be pretty more restrained, shall we say, when on the road. So I think that should be relatively safe, under 4.5 goals. Partner it with Haaland to score, and you get a 2.3 shot.
Okay, it used to be under 4.5 goals and Man City to win. I think this season, this could be the start, if this is successful, of the under 4.5 goals, Erling Haaland to score, which is crazy. It's crazy. 2.3. But look, it's the world we're living in right now. Moving on to Everton versus Spurs. I was thinking about this game yesterday, Mark. This is Everton's, they played a lot of home games on a Sunday, and I know prime time isn't as big as, say, like the NFL, where like your quarterbacks are solely like, how do they do in prime time? This new stadium, this David Moyes team this season, likes of Jack Grealish, Everton, primetime slot 4:30 Sunday. This feels like a massive, massive game to flip a season for Everton, who have started very well, very solid start. And if they win, they could be looking upwards this season as a top half finish. If they lose, they'll still be looking over their shoulder a little bit. So it just feels like a massive game against a Spurs side who were battered 0-0 basically away at Monaco during the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is perfectly set up for Everton. I'm sure you probably know where I'm heading about this, but it's another opportunity for me to oppose this Tottenham team, who I've been sort of banging this drum for a while now. I've just been really unconvinced after what was quite a promising start to the season. I put my notes together before the Monaco match, but sort of seeing that game, how it unfolded and what Spurs offered, again, just kind of doubled down on the theory that they're an opposable team right now. That's not to mention the negative of playing a Wednesday, Sunday away turnaround with Everton off a free midweek. Already a bit of an advantage there for the Toffees. But Spurs have failed to win in the last 6 trips to Everton. 5 of those were drawn, but they lost here last season. And whilst I don't want to sort of parrot the same old stuff around Spurs, it's difficult not to, really. They're just not creating enough in open play to win football matches consistently. 7 shots in the box against Villa last week, but an open play XG of 0.16. Desperate stuff. Away at Monaco, it was, I think, about 0.3 XG from open play. Very fortunate to escape with a 0-0 draw. Only 5 teams in the Premier League have engineered fewer big chances through the first 8 games. That's despite Spurs facing 4 of the current bottom 5. So the schedule's been relatively kind. I've mentioned their XG average from open play over the last 8 games in Europe. Before the Monaco match, it was 0.56 per game. And they are significantly overperforming in both boxes. I've got them ranked 13th on expected points this season. So, yeah, happy to get against them here. Everton on the +0 start was 173 on Wednesday morning. It's now 176. So that's definitely an avenue to consider. I'd already put my favoured bet in for this match, which is pro Everton, but I'll get to it in a little bit because, I did think they were fortunate to beat Palace on balance of play in the last home match, but it is 4 unbeaten now at the Hill Dickinson. Palace, Brighton, Villa, so 3 pretty tough opponents during that sample. And yeah, I like their chances of extending that streak here. They've only lost once in 13 home league games going back to April. That was Man City. And the price was 2.4, 2.45, 2.5. I don't disagree that the lesser of the two teams if this match was to be played at Wembley. But right now, I think Everton at home, you have to side with them based on what we've seen so far. I was relatively impressed by what they did in the first half at the Etihad last week. Iliman and Jai was unplayable again. They now get Jack Grealish back after he was ineligible. Chuck in Tyler Dibbling, Keane and Dewsbury Hall. And I think you've got the makings of a really creative and quite exciting attacking unit there. It just falls down a bit with the central striker because Beto missed a huge chance at 0-0. He's not consistent enough. And Tieno Barry seems to be taking time to acclimatise to the Premier League. So that is their weakness, I think, because defensively I'm relatively happy with what they've got and how they set themselves up. So I think they'll be very competitive in this game. I'd be surprised if they're beaten. And therefore, I've taken Everton double chance and under 3.5 goals at 192. So you've got the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, or the 0-0 and 1-1 correct scores on your side. Just 2 of the 16 games involving these two sides so far have gone over 3.5 goals. But the alternative now is to back Everton +0 on the Asian handicap at 176, which is a very decent alternative.
Okay, you've just seen there Mark outlined 2 different options, both available on Matchbook. You can go the Asian handicap route, really close to that 100% over round for better. So that's the way to go. But Mark's combined it in a bet builder and he feels this is the value of the two marginally. Everton double chance and under 3.5 goals, 192. So constantly trying to eke out that value and up that price. So whatever options you want, both available on the Matchbook betting exchange. And if you want a recap, I know we've thrown a few bets at you, insights.matchbook.com. From Thursday lunchtime, you'll find Mark's bets there, along with his article there, which will be filed in the next hour or so. Any other bets time here, Mark? Let's go to League 2. Swindon, flying high, second in the league versus Colchester. A lot of goals in both these teams, so naturally it won't take much to go with an over 2.5 goals. I'm guessing 1.82 seems big.
Yeah, my numbers make it sub 1.7, so there's value here. But I'll get to Colchester in a minute, but they're a big reason why I want to get with goals in this game. But firstly, Swindon are the League 2 entertainers. They've been really good fun for quite some time now, scoring freely under Ian Holloway, picking up positive results despite being pretty lax defensively. They're second, 8 wins from their first 13 fixtures, averaging 3.31 goals per game. In those 13 games, 10 have gone over. That's my play, as you say. Because it's 1.8, and I think that's a nice price. So Swindon are averaging 196 home goals per game under Holloway. He's taken charge of 23 games. They've scored in 18 of those. They only managed 6 home clean sheets. This season, they've scored at least twice in 5 of 6 at the county ground, but they've also conceded multiple goals in 3 of those matches and kept their sheets clean just the once. So we've got 4 from 6 winners for the over 2.5 goals market, 4 from 6 BTGS winners as well when Swindon have been at home. That includes the 2-2 draw at home to Notts County in midweek. That followed a 4-0 defeat at Accrington. So for a side looking for promotion, they'll be really eager to get back to winning ways. But yeah, looking into the underlying metrics this season, there's been 58 big chances according to Opta across Swindon's 13 fixtures. So 4.46 per game. And that figure should increase with Colchester in town, because I'm not sure what has occurred around Colchester in the last couple of weeks, but their games have gone haywire. They won 1 of their opening 10, and there was talk of the Cowleys kind of coming under pressure, maybe losing their jobs, but they've made a slow start last season, finished quite strongly. It looks like something similar might be brewing, because they've reeled off 3 straight wins, but the results from their last 4 fixtures, a 4-2 loss, and then the 3 wins, 6-2, 2-1 and 3-1. So 13 goals scored in 4 games. But the data for those matches is pretty outrageous. The 4 games, Colchester have averaged 3.32 expected goals. They've had 45 shots in the box, 31 shots on target, and have created 24 big chances in those 4 fixtures. That's 6 per game. They've also hit the woodwork 3 times in that 4-game sample, so could easily have scored more. It seems to have stemmed from Cowley sort of bringing in Mika and Bick and Kyrese Lisby into starting roles. Harry Anderson's found form, Jack Payne, the captain, in the 4-2-3-1 system. They're providing huge firepower So I fully expect them to get on the score sheet here and contribute. They scored an 11 of 13 overall, but only managed the one clean sheet all season. Their games are averaging 291 expected goals, 4.77 big chances across the season, and BTTS has been a winner in 10 of 13. So weighing it all up, expect Colchester to contribute, and both teams on the front foot. I think over 2.5 goals here at 1.8 looks a real treat.
Okay, and let's go to our second any other bets selection here. Serie B, our first foray into Serie B, I think, this season on the podcast, Mark. We usually get 3 or 4 in throughout a season, so on average. So we're on course, I think.
Yeah, it's quite timely. So Serie A has been a bit of a snooze fest this season. Plenty of 0-0s, plenty of low-scoring games, but Serie B has been much more entertaining. So 64% of games in Italy's second tier have seen both sides score. That is the angle I want to take when Sud Tirol play Cesena this weekend. This kind of jumped off my screen as big goals value in a couple of sort of models that I run because BTTS is available to support at 195 here. So you're not far off getting even money. You might actually get even money closer to kickoff, hopefully, if the market doesn't move. But basically the market is saying there's just better than a 50% chance we see both sides score here. And that's despite neither of these two teams yet keeping a clean sheet. The two teams combined have scored in 15 of those 16 matches, with both teams to score, obviously, then therefore winning in 15 of their collective 16 matches. 10 of those matches went over 2.5 goals. And the data is also really encouraging beyond just the raw results. So Tyrrell are seeing just shy of 30 shots in their matches on average, with games averaging 2.66 expected goals, a very even split between the for and against numbers. Cesena have seen 39 big chances in their 8 matches. That's 3.14 expected goals per game as well. And the away team are proving really entertaining, actually, when playing away. 3.5 expected goals in their away matches, which have ended 1-3, 1-2, 1-2, 3-1, 1-2. So they're scoring plenty of goals, but also conceded. So, yeah, my numbers suggest BTTS should be trading around the 1.7 mark at best, really. And I think if this match was taking place in the second tier of Germany, as an example, you'd probably be getting more like 1.62 on this selection. But because it's Italy, because there's a theory that the Italian leagues are generally low scoring and quite pragmatic, we're getting 1.95 on both teams to score.
Okay, sounds like probably one of the most value bets of the week for Mark. And long shots and best bets, we can combine the two here, Mark. So tell us, it's the same game. But El Clasico feels like we're getting back to that peak again. I mean, given both teams are looking like a two-way shootout in La Liga, they're two of the maybe top 7 in the market for the Champions League outright. So you expect both of them at the business end of the Champions League. Am I trying to wish that into existence, or is it on its way back to being two of those top sides again? Because it's just been a little bit speed bumps. One team hasn't quite got its act together. We've had other teams compete in La Liga as well. So are these two teams right now getting to that peak El Clasico from a few years ago, which will never be beaten, I guess, with Ronaldo, Messi, etc.?
Yeah, I think probably not, and that's largely down to defensive issues. I still think Real Madrid are sort of finding themselves under Xabi Alonso. Barcelona have got a lot of injuries right now, but defensively would always be the issue, I think, with Barca, if you're going to consider them as La Liga champions, or even to go and sort of dominate in Europe. I still think PSG are a couple of pegs ahead of these two teams. But in terms of this weekend, it should be great fun because these matches have been pretty mad for goals in recent years. Last season, the 4 meetings ended 0-4, 2-5, 2-2, and 3-4. So Barca had the stranglehold with those 3 wins and 1 draw against Real Madrid. Not necessarily expecting something similar this weekend, but I am expecting goals because the attacking talent on show for both sides, coupled with the defensive concerns. Barcelona struggling with injuries in forward areas, but they've gotten better over the past week, according to the team news on Thursday morning. But Real Madrid are very short on available defenders themselves, but obviously have Mbappe in outrageous form himself. So 11 of the last 14 games between these two teams have gone over 3.5 goals. And if you look at the last 17 meetings, the average goals per game comes in at 4.06. Now we can back over 3.5 goals at 1.86 on the nose, which is, I think, perfectly palatable. But if we head to the bet builder, we can just bolster that price a bit more to odds against 2.05 over 3.5 goals and include a goal in both halves, which I think is well worth an interest this weekend, or a decent interest, I should say, because look, if there's going to be 4 goals in a game, the likelihood they all come in one half is pretty slim. But yeah, I mentioned Madrid's defensive concerns. They only had 5 defenders available against Juventus on Wednesday night, 3 of which were left backs. You had Fede Valverde, Tchouameni, Camavinga, often being sort of brought in to reinforce the back line. Camavinga and Valverde have already sort of grumbled about being used in defence this season. They're not too happy about it, but they're hoping to have Dean Howson back in the back 4 this weekend. But the likely back 4 will be Carreras, Howson, Militao, and Valverde. Is that side capable of containing Barca? I'm not sure, because Ferran Torres is due back. That's a big plus with Lewandowski missing. Lamine Yamal's been back a week now. Looks like the player he was before his injury. Rashford's firing. Rafinha trained in full on Tuesday, so he may start. He might not finish the match, but he will be available. So, but the flip side is, can they contain Mbappe? Can they contain Vinicius with that high line, which has been routinely exposed this season since Inigo Martinez left? Hansi Flick seems to be favouring Pau Cubarsí and Eric Garcia as his preferred centre-back pairing. It's not for me. Cubarsí, wonderfully talented, but Eric Garcia is a liability. And ultimately, it's not really a personnel issue. It's more of a systematic one. Teams are just tearing right through the middle of Barcelona right now. Girona had 3 one-on-ones last weekend, spurned their chances. And Barca have now faced 24 big chances in just 9 La Liga games. Real Madrid, in fact, are on 19 in fairness. So neither side is convincing whatsoever defensively. Yeah, Madrid have scored at least twice in 9 of 12 overall this season. Barcelona have scored at least twice in 9 of 12 themselves, and also only kept 3 clean sheets. So many ways to attack this game. You could also look to back maybe Ferran Torres to score and Mbappe to score in a double, or Lamine Yamal to score or assist and Mbappe to score. There's many ways in which you can attack it. Just hit over 3.5 goals on the nose if you like, or as I say, get it to odds against by including a goal in both halves at 2.05. But for a long shot, my long shot this week is going to be 6.5. Comes in this game. It is both teams to score in both halves. So 4 of Barca's last 5 have seen both teams to score in the first half. There were 4 first half goals when Real Madrid faced Atletico Madrid earlier this season. And there's been 12 first half goals in the last 3 Clásicos. And this proposed bet, this proposed long shot, has won in 3 of the most recent 6 meetings between these 2 teams. And it's 6.5 for a repeat. So, yeah, looks like it's long shot worthy.
Okay, we got a couple of selections there, and they are recapped on insights.matchbook.com. Mark, we got a comment in from Colchester United fan, Mark. So he's on board with your bet, goals, angles, few defensive injuries there, but much appreciated to all the live comments that come in. Anyone watching live or watching back on YouTube, if you take 2 seconds, hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds, but does help our content get out to a wider audience. That's all we ask from you, and we much appreciate. But continue getting the comments in, and any feedback or questions from Mark or Agent, who will be back next week, by all means, send them in on YouTube. But yeah, my thanks to Mark. Great riding solo with you throughout the week, Mark. We'll be back, as I said, next week, previewing another week's Premier League. But enjoy the weekend football. We'll chat to you all next week. Bye-bye.